Do you still struggle to make a wig? Do you have bumpy parts when you do so? If this is you, please watch this video. Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So I like to start off with a mesh cap. I really prefer the mesh cap to the dome ones because they're breathable. So what I try to do is these caps actually come big sometimes, and you do not need to worry when it happens. You just need to size it up. So here I measured, it was giving me about 16 inches long, but I wanted it to be about 13 inches. So I measured it and I'm just folding it and trying to tack out the excess side that I do not want. So I'm tacking it. I'm just making sure that I tack it down to make the cap smaller to the size that I want it to be. You just sew that round from one side to the other. I started from the middle of the back. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to sew the other part too so that it gives me my desired size. I'm done sewing here and I'm happy with what I've done. I have the right size that I want for the cap. So I go on with my frontal. You do not want to sew the edge of a frontal to the edge of the cap. It will hurt your ears. You want to come forward. So I'm going to lift my frontal about an inch forward from the cap, from the mesh cap. This way you have room for your sideburns. That way the cap will not stick on your ears and hurt them. So I did that, and you're going to want to fold your frontal in two so that you get the middle of it exactly. You use your T-pins and bring them down. You see, I'm trying to measure the sideburn area to make sure that I have about 1.5 or 2 inches forward for it. So I'm just going to braid down the hair so it doesn't get in the way while I'm sewing the frontal to the mesh cap. So I've done that, and I started tacking. I started from the middle. I would advise that you start from the middle. This way, you start from one middle to one end and come back to the middle to the other end. This way, you have even ends. You do not, there are no lumps, no bumps, nothing. It's just perfect. So after sewing both sides, you want to go in with your tape measure and draw a guideline for yourself about an inch away from each other to sew your tracks. This way it helps you, you know what you're doing, you know that one area is not wider than the other area. It just helps you to have a guideline to sew your tracks on. So there's actually a marker, a pen for what I'm doing right now, but if you do not have the pen, you do not need to worry. You can use a tailor's chalk or any chalk, something that can just give you marks on the mesh. When you want to start sewing your tracks, make sure that you start from the weft on top of the weft. Make sure that you do that and do it like 2 times so that you hold it down. You don't have, so it doesn't lift, it doesn't move, it just holds it perfectly down. So after you've sewn the first 2 stitches on the weft, you can now decide to start going from under the weft onto the cap. You sew it that way. When you get to one end, make sure that, because I actually started with 2 tracks because I wanted more volume at the back of the back of the hair as opposed to on top, so it doesn't get too bulky. So yeah, I started with 2 tracks. So you keep tacking and tacking it. I like to help myself with T-pins. It helps me so that it doesn't come down. It just makes it easier to, so when you use the T-pin to hold it down. So here I'm tacking on the weft of the hair. At every turning, you want to tack on the weft, not under the weft, so that it's going to hold it firmly down. So like I said, after 2 stitches, you can begin to start tacking under. So when a thread finishes, this is what I like to do. I go in with another thread. I make sure that I tie on the weft. I make sure that I tie it down. Then I want to add it to the one that finished and just tie it together before cutting the finished one out. This way, you're sure that your stitches are secure. When a bundle finishes and you're trying to add another set of bundles to continue stitching, you make sure that it's as close as possible, like it's really close to the one that just finished. Make it so close as possible that place there's no space between the finished bundle and the new bundle that you attached. Just make sure that you secure it down from on top of the weft and then you keep stitching. You just keep stitching. I'm still using two bundles here. One actually, I ran out from one end, so I'm just trying to add another bundle to it to just continue my two bundles stitching. So I'm still stitching, adding it together, making sure that I have it on top of the weft. Like I said, at every beginning, every edge, you make sure that you want to stitch on top of the weft so that it holds it securely down. After your first two stitches at the end, you can now go under the weft to continue your stitching. So here I realized that I still have bundles left and I can just make it 3 lines as opposed to the 2 lines I have left. I did an inch apart, so I just made it less than an inch apart since I'm at the top and I have more bundles left. So that's what I just did so that the space can actually cover well. So that's what I just did here, and I'm sewing onto the lines that I just created. When you get to the last line, you want to make sure that you sew it on top of the frontal. Make sure you're so close on top of the frontal, that way there's nothing showing, there's no lump, there's no bump, there's no space, everything just marries together. So I'm unraveling the braid that I've done, and I'm just trying to make everything come together, and I'm brushing my wig. So that's it, guys. You see the inside neat clean stitches. So I'm going to cut off the cap under the frontal area because we do not need that black part. No, we don't need it, so we have to cut it out. So you just carefully gently cut it out, not too close to the frontal, not too far away from the frontal. And this is what you will have: clean stitches, perfectly made wig. Thank you guys for watching.